everything.
Subscribe to Need to Know for the CEO podcast, and you will get to listen to and be inspired by other CEOs as they share their experiences and best practices. You'll also get to listen to subject matter experts who will brief you on what they think you need to know to do your job more effectively. The experts will occasionally include Ian and I, who will do episodes on topics like creating a winning strategy, OKR best practices, maturing metric capabilities, and building a high-performance culture, and other business news-related topics. Enjoy the show. So, Jon, thanks for joining us today. Tell me about Blu Sky.
Thanks for having us, Matt. Ian, it's a pleasure to be here. Blu Sky, we're a chartered accountants firm. We founded 16 years ago during the financial downturn of 2008. We thought, how hard can it be to set up a accountant's practice from scratch? In reality, that made us very nimble. It allowed us to innovate early on, and most accountancy practices are, hundreds of years old sometimes. So we didn't have the baggage of the past with us. And that's lived with the firm over the 16 years. Our mission is to be pioneers in the accountancy sector. So not the first mouse, but the second mouse normally gets the cheese. So that's where we position ourselves. We wanted to disrupt a little bit. Back in 2008, that was very much about wearing a pair of jeans rather than a suit. That was enough to get you recognized as being slightly different to the norm. Fast forward 16 years, we work primarily with investment-led technology businesses, normally pre-seed or early stage is when we meet them, and then we grow alongside the founding team, normally to the point of either they've outgrown our services, so they've secured a Series B round, or they've failed miserably and gone on to do other things.
Yeah.
So we're constantly working hard with our clients to help them get through their working day. We sort of mentioned superpowers earlier. I think Blu Sky's superpower is that we are a small business like the clients we work with. So we empathize, we care, we understand what the founders are going through day to day, because we have as a business ourselves, and we ensure that our team and everyone who joins Blu Sky's commercially aware and has the understanding, and ensures that our clients' needs and wants and emotions are put first. Yeah.
So you're like a fractional sort of CFO team on steroids. Kind of, you can wear a lot of different sort of hats in that department, or is that the wrong way of describing it?
We're probably more like a virtual finance function. So we'll do everything up to the point where maybe there'll be a fractional CFO involved. But those guys, sometimes when you have finance in your job title, you need the assumption is you can do everything. And you want to do everything, and most of the fractional CFOs we work with are very much focused on strategy, taking the business to the next level, and don't necessarily want to be involved in working out why one of the founders has been at Starbucks more frequently than they should have been.
Yeah.
So we sit in behind them and help to ensure that all the compliance work is being completed when it should be, is of a high quality, but also the numbers are able to tell a story, both about the past, but also about the future of the business as well.
Yeah, I've had a few tech companies, and storytelling with numbers is particularly important, particularly if you're going to go through the fundraising rounds. You described a really sort of specific ideal customer there, and Ian and I work quite hard when we're working with customers on strategy to tease that out of them, because obviously the temptation is to try and please a lot of different people. Have you found that focus on your ideal customer and knowing what you are has really helped you scale?
Oh, definitely. I think in the early years, I think business owners, and we were no different, we just want to hear lots of yeses. We needed to pay our mortgage and get us over the next hurdle of recruiting someone and kind of through that growth curve. Then we realized really where our passion was, what we were good at, and we were attracting clients who have a similar mindset. Not all of them, but a large number of them, and that just helped us move a little bit quicker. And you get to the point where actually a no is not a bad thing. It's just that client is maybe not right for Blu Sky, or Blu Sky is just not right for that client. Yeah, worthwhile working that out early doors rather than wasting energy and time on it further down the route.
I think for sure in lots of industries, whether they're professional services or tech companies or others, there are bad customers that are just not good for you. They can either be too big for you and kind of the whale amongst the group of customers, or they're a bad fit and they can, Ian's heavily into sort of product management, and we certainly know together that actually you can start building features for your non-ideal customer too, but they shout loudly and they've got a lot to spend. There's all kinds of bad places you can end up if you're forcing yourself to pay the bills or unable to say no, for sure. And you must see that with some of your sort of companies that you're supporting through their growth.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of the technology businesses, they need to be agile. They're early stage. They need to be able to pivot and move forward and make those decisions quickly. With an accountancy practice, I think it's very much about exactly what you said, working out who your ideal customer is and putting your energy and focus into making sure that those relationships are strong and fruitful over the short and medium term.
Yeah.
Jon, are you finding with tech companies, and thinking of some of the startups I work with, part of your role is a bit of education as well?
Yeah, I think there's a definite correlation between a founder or a founder team who can see the value in not just using an outsourced accountant, but looking at themselves and working out where their weaknesses are as a founding team, and then pulling on support and help from people who can plug those differences. So if they've got the self-awareness to say, look, we've got some education, we need some education in these areas, and it's not just a monthly subscription like Netflix or something like that, then generally those founding teams, I think there is a correlation in their future success and being able to scale the business and grow quicker than others.
What's your CEO journey been like? Has it been up and down or smooth sailing?
Well, I've kind of worn every hat there is to wear in Blu Sky, because you've founded the business. I founded the business with Dave Gibson. So there's the two of us on day one with kind of a traditional accountancy model, if you like, two partners, but and no staff. Then as we've grown, it became obvious for a couple of reasons that we needed to have distinct roles, both internally but from an external view as well. I think it helped the team understand what each of us were responsible and accountable for, but it also built a route for succession, both within the team, but also for Dave. He's 15 years older than me, so we started wearing C-suite hats, and then Steve Robinson came in bought into the business, so he became CEO, and kind of it matches well. So I formally took on the title of CEO about 18 months ago now, and yeah, it's every day is different, but every day was different before, and it was something that we were managing for a good number of years before it actually happened as well. So I don't know whether that answers your question or not.
No, it does. I mean, obviously, you've known a few people wear different hats within the business. Are you different, or do you have different qualities that you can obviously see, or have you kind of molded each other and shaped each other into being a consistent character?
Yeah, I think it's the philosophy's always been and is for the whole team, but look at what your strengths are, and let's focus on the strengths of the individual, and those strengths evolve and change over time. And I think one of the fortunate things is when you're running a business, you can be very honest with yourself and think, well, I want to develop in that direction. so I'll pick up that level of responsibility or that focus, or the business is at this point, so you pick that hat up. So an example would be when we went into lockdown, Dave became the outward facing focus of Blu Sky. He was involved in loads of webinars, he was thinking on his feet, he's very agile, whereas I looked very much more inward and started to make sure our business was sustainable first of all, but then how could we use lockdown as an opportunity to evolve and grow and do things better as well. So, and then when we came out of lockdown, those roles changed. I'm now very much the outward focus of the business. Dave's moved on to like a more of a chairman role, so very much around governance, and Steve's looking at the internal focus as well.
Yeah, sounds like a good team.
I think so, yeah. We were talking about football earlier, but a football team's 11 different individuals, isn't it? You don't want 11 goalkeepers or 11 strikers or 11 wingers. And I think we complement each other. We've got different skills, which I think is important, and different personalities, but it's the alignment to where we want to take the firm. That's the shared piece that we all believe in and focus on.
Yeah. In terms of, you mentioned sort of teamwork there. Culture obviously features strongly where you have a team, whether it's a football team or a business.
Yeah.
Now, how much effort goes into culture?
An enormous amount every day, and we don't always get it right. We were very, even in the early days, myself and Dave we got a flip chart up, and in the middle of it we wrote fun. And you think accountancy practice and fun, the two things kind of don't go together, but that was really the focus of why we set the business up. Was we were both from a corporate blue chip background, and we weren't having much fun day to day. It was kind of, we felt constrained, and that's still one of our 3 values today. And what does it mean for Blu Sky? I guess when we describe it, we say, well, what do you see when what's a person who doesn't have fun? What they're doing? They've normally got an ego. They're more normally self-focused. They're normally looking after themselves. They're not collaborating. They're not. They take themselves too seriously. They maybe don't have a sense of humor. Those kind of things. Flip that on its head, and suddenly you've got an individual who doesn't mind sweeping the sheds, looks out for everyone else, has empathy, enjoys what they're doing, cares about what they're doing. So that's something that we're looking for when we're recruiting, but also in our day-to-day work as an example of one of our values. Yeah. Educating the team and talking about behaviors and values is something that is embedded into like our our progression conversations and the impact that individuals are making every day. And it's reinforcing the right behaviors amongst the team and the senior team as well, to kind of lead by example.
That was smart.
Yeah, John, I don't know if you saw, Matt and I were talking earlier about NVIDIA's chairman, Jensen Huang, and one-to-ones, and he has 50 direct reports, doesn't do any one-to-ones.
Right.
Which is kind of, what's your kind of culture like that in terms of, are you coaching your direct reports every week, or how do you approach that challenge?
Yeah, it's I think you need to have some, maybe I'm wrong, but some formality in terms of how you're approaching it, but it needs to be tailored to the individual. Some of the guys appreciate and want a conversation weekly. Others just want to be left alone to get on with things, but want to have the reassurance that you're in the background and to be available kind of when you need them. So I very much mix and match it and focused on the individual and ask what's wanted. At the same time, I think regular and often conversations are often more powerful than, an annual appraisal meeting or something like that. I personally try to speak to everyone in our team, and we're not a big team, there's a team of 30, but I want to speak to everyone at least once a quarter, which doesn't sound that frequently, but actually when you multiply it out, with all the other pressures on your time.
Yeah.
It takes some scheduling and some focus to do even that. So with my direct reports, as I say, it's very much an open conversation tailored to them, and for the wider team, I'm open and available. If someone wants to speak to us, they don't have to book a meeting or anything like that. It's just pop up on Teams or wherever and have a chat. And if I haven't heard from them, then we've got a quarterly meeting to do exactly that.
I mean, one of the things I'm hearing is this empathy, not for the people working for you, and for your clients. It sounds like it's really, really core to you. What other things do you think make a successful CEO?
I think you need to have resilience would be one of them. Calmness, being able to listen, to make a decision when it's needed. I think a thirst to learn and develop for me is important. And not to have an ego. I think sometimes I look at other CEOs and I'm kind of that ego runs through, and I don't actually think you need an ego to be a good leader and embrace the role.
I'd actually argue that leaders don't have an ego. The really good ones don't have an ego. They don't need one. It's just some people you want to follow them because they are just genuine leaders. It's a natural aura and capability they have, and it's normally some of the sort of characteristics you were describing there. They are humble, but they will make decisions. They do care. They're strong. They're listening. They are empathetic, and all of those other traits. Really impressive. You mentioned earlier some very specific cultural traits, and fun being just one of them. How good are you at hiring to match the culture, or do people have to learn your culture by absorbing how you are once they get there? And have you had any disasters? Because I'll tell you for certain, that has always been my Achilles heel. Not spotting the bad apples early enough, and then kicking myself later that they were able to get inside the company. I got better as I worked through the decades. It's still the one that gives me a twitch.
Oh yeah, 100% agree. Whenever I'm asked what are your challenges, it's always around recruitment, I guess. And sometimes even when you do recruit that great person, you develop them so well, and then they end up flying off and doing other things as well. So it's a never-ending quest, I would say. We put values and behaviours front and centre through the recruitment process. I think early in my career, you would often look at people and you'd see the similar qualities that you probably saw in yourself. So you would recruit people who were like you, and that's not a great place to be. Then you start looking at it from a technical point of view. When you grow in a business, it's kind of like, needs must. We need someone, I don't know, who's great at R&D tax credits this year. So let's go out and recruit someone who's very technically gifted. I would say it was about 7 or 8 years ago where the penny really dropped for our business, and it was we saw a correlation between those people who lived and understood the values that we're trying to embed in the business and the behaviours that we're trying to create day to day, and those that were right for Blu Sky over the short term and had the biggest impact kind of day to day. So our interview process, we do look at a technical problem that is around problem solving, but then we look at the behaviours and get the guys to fill in a questionnaire, which is then linked through our values and see how the two things match up, and then we ask questions around that piece.
That's a great practice to follow.
Yeah. But we've had plenty of mistakes over the years, like everyone. humans are humans, aren't they? They never cease to amaze you. But people, everyone, I think, personal lives have their ups and downs, and it's not necessarily a bad thing when someone leaves a business for them or for the business opportunity for someone else. But I think one of my responsibilities is, if it's not working out, is to set someone free so that they can go off and have a happy existence working somewhere else.
I bet you've never got rid of somebody or let somebody go that didn't expect it, or it didn't work out well for them in the end. That was my experience. It's you sit down, and if you have a calm, rational conversation, you both know it's generally not working.
Yeah, 100%. If you can have that conversation and look each other in the eyes and be able to say, well, we've done everything possible to make it work, and it just isn't, then that's the right way to end the relationship. But equally, we've had lots of situations where we've got like Blu Sky alumni now, which is interesting, and we've got employees who speak really highly of us within the network, and I think the accountancy sector, it's and certainly in the Northeast, it's a small world. So yeah, it's really nice when you hear someone who's gone somewhere else speaking so highly at the time of Blu Sky, and that's probably the biggest kick you can get out of running a business, seeing someone who's developed and grown and then being able to move on to something else as a result.
I wholeheartedly agree. Some of the best. I mean, I hired a lot of graduates in the early years of some of my technology companies, and they have gone on to become like rock stars in their own way. And from earning not much with us to now, I'm sure they're earning pretty big salaries and put their kids through private school and all the things that they're now capable of doing. And you just being part of that journey, you do feel very proud, and it is a lovely feeling. Yeah,
I remember once our first office looked out onto like a town square, and one of our apprentices was it was 8:45 back in the days where it was like 9 to 5 culture, and she was like skipping across the square smiling, and she came in the office, and I was like, "Oh, what's happening with you? You look so happy." And she's just like, "Oh, I'm just happy to be coming into work." And I was like, "Wow." And
wow.
It's not every day, but that was that. I remember that moment, and that was a great feeling. She actually won Apprentice of the Year in the Northeast that year as well. So
fantastic.
Gone on to do good things since.
Amazing.
Just had a couple. You talked about the kind of finance community in the Northeast, and also about your office there. How have you worked? Talking about the pandemic, this on-premise remote work. How have you handled that challenge?
Yeah, that's been interesting. When we went in, so we own our office. It's actually a converted pub. So the standing workspace in the office is the original bar. It's still in there. The next question is have you got a line of IPA? And we haven't. But we do have a
so close.
We do have a fridge in the kitchen with some drinks in it. So when we went into lockdown, one of the first successes, if you like, was we were ahead of the curve in terms of we were paperless almost. I think we had 5 or 10% where paper got posted out to us. Everything was in the cloud. The team I think we had one remote employee at that point, but the team were primarily in the Northeast, and we were kind of trying to educate, motivate, whatever the words were, people to work from home and work flexibly. Why sit in a traffic jam, or in rush hour when you could leave 30 minutes later and get into work, feeling better about yourself and the world. Lockdown came along, and I was actually in London at a client in WeWork near Liverpool Street, and it got to like 3:30 and everyone started leaving. I was like, "Johnny, what's happening?" And he said, "Oh, well, it's this pandemic." And I was like, "What pandemic?" And he was like, "Well, we're just testing whether everyone's going to work from home." And so I got on the phone to Dave, and I said, "I think let's do a trial run tomorrow, Friday, and And then we did it, and then no one came back. We ran around, delivered some new chairs to people, and got some second screens out to them. But we worked as we would for the whole period, and it actually accelerated some of our thinking about hiring from across the UK. A lot of our clients are over 50% on in geographically near us, but a good number in London, in the northwest, and then all over the place. So why wouldn't our team be the same? And now we've got 50% of our team who work and have chosen to work for us because they can work remotely and a hybrid model. That aside, we've still got a lovely office that I'm trying to influence and make reasons for the local team to come back into at least once or twice a week, because I think it's still important to for the collaboration and for the learning, especially the younger or less experienced members of the team to feed off as well. But we haven't gone down the route of saying you must come into the office. It's very much you've got to want to come in. Tuesdays now are a good day in Blu Sky HQ, and then Fridays tend to be, there's a splattering of people in there as well.
I think that's one of the most underappreciated bits of the remote culture, that the young people miss out on just absorbing through observation and listening. I think back to, I joined ad agencies out of university, and I think back to how I learnt, and a majority of it was through listening to phone calls, sitting on meetings, taking notes, occasionally being brave enough to speak up. And that's pretty much been taken away from that younger generation coming into the professions. And I probably feel sorry for them, actually, because I think it does put an anchor on learning to a certain degree. And I've not heard of good ways of compensating for that, although I'm sure they do exist, and I'm sure they do the socials and the kind of the social bond building, but it's not quite the same as natural absorption. Yeah,
I think you just don't pick up on the cues from your peers and from others around the office. It kind of probably feels a little bit more forced, a bit more transactional from time to time. We had like a daily huddle even before we went remote, and some people were like, why we're doing this? And then actually when we went into lockdown, it became that norm. Actually, I was like, this is why we do it. And it's just part of our working day now, that each individual team kind of get together at the start of the day, jump on and have less than 10 minutes, but just to kick the day off and have a conversation like you probably would in the office, around the coffee machine or whatever. But I think you've got to work harder as a team at it.
And friendship bonds, I guess. I mean, I've made a lot of friends over many years that will work originated friendships, and I think they're, for some people especially, they're important sources of how they socialize, how they go to the pub, who you eat with. If you're single and you're not in a relationship, that's important to you. And I wonder how those people actually compensate now as well.
I think I'm always amazed. We get together as a business once a quarter, and how there are those friendships, and things have developed, and you look around, and some days you think, what's going on, because you can't actually see it. And then when we get together each quarter, it's like amazing to see that still happening. But I don't know how.
And the Blu Sky family, I guess.
Yeah. I guess the flip side is you don't have to sit next to that annoying person in the office who we've all probably sat next to over the years and had to put up with.
I've never sat next to anyone like that.
Cool stuff.
So in terms of kind of you and what you do outside work, what keeps you motivated, healthy, ticking?
Yeah, I think someone said a number of years ago, a mentor to me, he's like, what would you do when you get to the top of a mountain? And I was like, I'd look for the next one. And he was like, would you not take that time to reflect, look back on the journey? And I was kind of like, that was a bit of an eye opener. So outside of work, I do do spend a lot of time trying to reflect and give that time to myself to think and understand. And the best way I do that is through exercise, whether that's cycling or fortunate enough to live 100 meters from the sea. So I was out last night on my paddleboard trying to surf on it, enjoy running. Last Friday we did with the 3 Yorkshire Peaks team of other CEOs from the region, and I mean, that was just a fabulous day. Grueling, 25 miles in under, I think we did it under 9 hours in the end. And then but we were all talking about how it's so important to get out, to exercise, give your mind a rest, and focus on other things. Yeah, so I'm a big believer in that. And enjoy supporting Newcastle United. Been a season ticket holder for 40 odd years. Dragged my son and daughter into this cult as well. So and enjoy spending time with those guys. They love the sport as well.
Do you get to go a lot? Do you get to see most games?
Yeah, we've got season tickets. So we're fortunate enough to be able to go at the moment because everyone wants one. But we've lived through some pretty dire times as well, so I feel like we deserve it a little bit.
Most teams
great
have.
supporters. Yeah, great bunch of supporters, Newcastle. It's difficult to get tickets for away games as an Arsenal fan, but when I've been up to St James's, always a good treat, and nice city as well. Love it up there.
Yeah, I think football's it's gradually becoming more of a diverse and universal sport than it was when I first started supporting. And when I go to away matches, you always enjoy your local hospitality, and I think the Geordies do that pretty well from what I can tell from the away fans who come up. They obviously enjoy it, even though they're on level 7 and probably got a better view of Gateshead than they have of the pitch.
It's a bit high up there. I did have altitude sickness, I think, last time I went to a game, but the pubs around the ground make up for it for sure.
I think that's it's, to be honest, I've been to the Emirates kind of once, but I always like going to the London clubs as well because they're all in this. They talk about Newcastle being at the heart of the city, but I think there's only really the London clubs who you can just walk off the tube and down the street and have a pint and then get into the ground, and you can feel more of the tradition of football, I think, rather than going off to an industrial estate 20 miles outside the city centre.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Really insightful, really nice to meet you, and I'm sort of fascinated by your team as well. So congratulations on building a great culture, a good team, a business that knows what it is. Thanks again. It's been lovely meeting you.
Absolutely. And I think, sorry, John, I think if you ever thinking of a career in executive leadership coaching, you've got some really great advice for C-suites there, around the empathy and treating people as individuals. Great ethos. Really enjoyed hearing about it.
Oh, thanks, Matt. Thanks, Ian. It's great to meet you both, and really enjoyed chatting with you today. Thank you.
You're a star. Thanks, John.
Cheers, John.